Hey, well, grace, mercy, and shalom to everybody. We're mobile right now as I'm getting ready to leave. But I wanted to take a moment to get on really quick and tell everybody, remind everybody that tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we have our Bible study Thursdays. It's what our tribe was built off of. This is what started everything, Thursday night Bible study. And I took a moment to get on to remind everybody to join us because we're in one of the most, I believe, powerful sessions or series we've done to date, because this session deals with spiritual laws. And I just believe that spiritual laws are something that we as a community, as a body, must reflect on, because there are a lot of effects to laws, whether we break them or whether we adhere to them. And I'm currently looking, I don't know where I put my shoes, y'all. Y'all, I don't know where I put my shoes. Y'all just don't pay me any mind. But I believe that a lot of the adverse effects that we see, a lot of the things that we're experiencing in our personal journey and our personal walk, it's coming from, are we listening or abiding to spiritual laws? And so last week we did an introduction to spiritual laws, and we began to ask the question. Well, I asked the question, I should say, how many of these laws have you broken? We found out surfacely there's laws like the law of rest. We found out that there's laws like the law of reciprocity, sowing and reaping. There's a law of honor. There's different laws that the spirit has sanctioned us to abide by. But in return, there's the goodness of God that we receive from it. And so, yesterday or last week, I should say, we started speaking on these spiritual laws, and we started posing the question, how many of us are sons of covenant? And then how many of us are, we're familiar with the idea of being sons of God, but we don't really know the full totality of it. Now, I will say that the laws for the lawless, right? It's really a group of rules, regulations, standards that we put in place for those that don't know how to govern outside of it. When you have the Spirit of God in you, it guides you and it leads you in all truth. And so you don't have to focus so much on the black and white letters when the Spirit of God is leading all of your actions. But when you are in a season where your actions may be influenced by your emotions, your ambition, and your will, well, you may find yourself needing a spiritual law to really keep you aligned to the will of the Father. And none of the laws that God has given are laws to confuse us, but these laws are laws to keep us in a place where we can be identified as his sons. The Bible says that the holy ones are those that came from among the groups. They're separated. They have become separate. So part of holiness is dealing with the laws, understanding the principles of God and the foundations of God. So when we go together or come together for a Bible study, we're not speaking of the Mosaic laws that we all should have read and known by now, the Ten Commandments and these different laws. We touched on them last week briefly. We touched on the feasts and all that stuff. But we're dealing with spiritual laws that go beyond the law of the veil. It's beyond the veil. This is things that causes you to move in an unction that does not really hold to the parameters of the black and white. Think about it this way. Jesus was breaking quote unquote Mosaic laws, but he was fulfilling the spiritual ones. Like when he begins to perform the miracle on the Sabbath. And remember, the Sanhedrin, the religious teachers started to say, no one is to work on the Sabbath. And he asked a question. He says, if your cattle or if your oxen was stuck in a ditch, would you leave it there and then come back after your day of rest? Or would you rescue it right then and there? He was showing that the laws of Moses were not to be broken and defiled, but they're to be fulfilled because there's one that came beyond his laws that were greater, the spiritual laws, the laws that are by the Spirit. Because in the Spirit, there is no law. He said, we see that in the New Testament. Paul writes this letter and he starts to deal with the law. And he says, Moses dealt with a veil, but God rent the veil. And the Spirit of God leads us into all truth. You don't need a law for that because the Spirit won't lie to us. So I'm excited because tonight we're going to deal with love and relationship, the laws of love and relationship. What does it mean to really love your neighbor as you love yourself? Or to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, your mind, your soul. And so I want you to join us. Now, there's a way that you can join that's the easiest if you're virtual. Simply text the word "We Are Tribe" to the number 1-855-943-0771, and you'll get a link when it's time to go live. Or you can search the Apple App Store. I don't know what's up with Google. We're praying that Google gets it together so that the Androiders that's not a word, but it is now, can also be able to partake on our app. But you can actually watch our session right on our app, along with all of our social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So join however you feel the need to join, and listen in on us as we discuss tonight spiritual laws. That's tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be on Zoom on all social media platforms, or you can pull up 2217 North Washington Street in Wilmington, Delaware. We'd be honored to have you as we discuss spiritual laws, or Sons of Covenant Part 2. Love you, honor you. Lord's willing, see you all tonight on Zoom or social media or in public. Okay? See you soon. Bye-bye.